Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now in the last couple of days of August of 2024, and given that throughout the majority of this month, a lot of things happened over at the Walt Disney Company for many of its divisions. I mean, specifically looking at Lucasfilm, there's been a lot of issues going on behind closed doors between those like Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, many of the Disney executives, etc., etc. However, focusing on the lead, of course, director, showrunner of the series, Leslye Headland, and the star of the show, if you even want to call her a star, by the way, that is, of course, Amandla Stenberg, who plays Osha and May, is not taking things very well when it comes to her overall firing and removal from all Star Wars projects moving onwards and all Acolyte spin-offs that are now going into pretty much a limbo mode and getting shelved one by one. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So ever since the official cancellation of the Acolyte, which by the way was a back and forth scenario for weeks, until there was the final negotiation by Bob Iger to finally shelve this thing and lock it up and just put it in the rearview mirror and never let it see the light of day again with no season 2. Now those out there like Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, and even Amandla Stenberg are having a very tough time with that. It even got to a point where there was a grudge going on between Headland and Kennedy. We talked about this in the last post. But what's interesting about all of this moving onwards has a lot to do with Stenberg and how she is seemingly taking out everything on the fans and really having a hard time accepting the overall results of the ratings for the Acolyte and what the overall outcome was. Let's get into this. Now, with Lucasfilm still considered the worst division at the Walt Disney Company, those like Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, and Amandla Stenberg have been desperately defending the series at all costs. One monumental development going on right now has more to do with Amandla Stenberg and her overall reaction after getting both fired from all Star Wars projects moving onwards and the Acolyte cancellation, seemingly taking everything out on the fans. Now, Stenberg delivered the following. Well, it has become quite obvious that what we are dealing with are toxic males that tend to fall into that trap of misogyny. This is an ugly side of the fandom that we knew we would always have to deal with that can be very loud and opinionated. What is very frustrating to me as an actress and one who is part of the LGBTQ community is that this same loud part of the community more often than not are heard by the studio heads and convince them that they are the majority. I will admit that the conversations I was having with my future involvement at Lucasfilm aren't really in existence anymore, and I put full blame on the self-centered so-called fans for all of that. Leslye made a fine product and an artsy story that addressed the growing issues with benign sexism with those opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion as well, and just how important it really is. And we really need more projects like the Acolyte to move our society forward. We are seeing these issues both in the film industry and in the game industry for products attached to the Star Wars brand, and it's just sickening behavior to say the least. I never really wanted to talk about Season 2, but now that this is not happening, I will say that we were going to do some pretty empowering things with Osha and May that would have actually allowed both loyal fans and new fans with our best example of female representation in the Star Wars world. I fully agree with Leslye that the loud group are not really fans and that they are just posers asking to see what they want to see either on the big screen or at home for streaming, and that all they want is to stick to George Lucas's vision, and that is the misogyny right there, and that is the number one growing issue, is believing that one person is the key to creating Star Wars correctly for their audience. So guys, let me stop here before I move on quick. Now, she briefly addressed the overall gaming industry side of Star Wars. I think that what she's alluding to is the backlash over Star Wars Outlaws. I don't know if you guys saw it, but this is another project by, the overall Lucasfilm, the Star Wars brand, that's getting heavily universally rejected because of its usage of DEI over proper storytelling and character development and just putting an entertaining product out there. So, we've seen this growing problem, as she, of course, likes to call it, quote-unquote, a growing problem, that there are so many toxic males, so many toxic men out there, part of the Star Wars community. She keeps blaming, this made-up demographic, when in reality, all what they really are passionate fans that just want to see something entertaining for once in a very long time. Something that they grew up with. Now look, diversity is fine if it comes naturally and organically in the script writing process, but if you're focusing on that just for the soul of focusing on that, you're not paying attention to story. This is something I always have to bring up time and time again. Now, she goes on to conclude, I have found Star Wars fans to be by far the most difficult fan base to deal with. Having been in the Hunger Games and Marvel, Star Wars fans are on a whole other level that I can't even describe. When I look at Osha and May, they are fine examples of our representation of what it means to be non-binary, especially for these two characters that are the same person in The Acolyte. We really looked up to Rian Johnson and his vision with The Last Jedi and took so many notes from him on how to make the story right. I thought it was wrong to not move forward with the show, and I was very surprised that it even got to this point where the angry, loud minority gets things their way. So, look, here's the thing, it's not about an angry mob of people, it's not about the overall made-up community of toxic fans that led to the Acolyte cancellation. You know what led to the Acolyte cancellation? Two major things. The non-existence of proper storytelling, proper character development, good execution, fine producing, great set design, and at the expense, alright, the cost of doing that, you have a lot of fans that just don't want to watch, either through feeling very apathetic, or laughing at the show, or just watching it out of pure entertainment in a different way, to just see how bad it really was. And more, of those people tuned out even earlier than expected. Most of them didn't even make it to episode 5 of The Acolyte. That's why you had the Nielsen ratings reports, which don't lie, by the way, very accurate. That's why the Nielsen ratings reports dropped heavily, significantly, week by week. And it's not like it maintained a balance or anything like that. When it came to its ratings on the chart, it just kept falling and falling and falling. And the finale was the final blow. I mean, that's what really convinced Bob Iger, alright, all negotiations are off, we're not reinstating season 2, after canceling it. Because this was going on, by the way, back and forth behind the scenes. They canceled it, Kathleen Kennedy wanted it uncanceled. They decided to wait to see what the results would look like for the finale. We got those results. Bob Iger called off season 2. And now you got people like Stenberg, Kennedy, Headland, very, very angry about their firing and removal from multiple projects, except Kennedy, of course. She's to stay, and she's going to stay. Mark my words, she will stay. Because there are a lot of conversations going on right now. She wants to remain at Lucasfilm until the fall of 2027, the latest, alright? So overall, I would really love to hear what everyone has to say about all this below in the comments, everything related to the Acolyte ratings disaster, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.